Welcome on into a live edition of Falcons Today by Chat Sports. Matthew Peterson here after Atlanta's win, I guess we'll call it, on Monday night against the Raiders 15-9. I wanted to go live today to talk about everything stemming from this Week 16 victory. Week 15 victory. Where do the Falcons kind of go from here at quarterback? Update a look at the playoff picture, what the Falcons need to have happen to win the NFC South or potentially get a wild card spot. So a lot to discuss on today's episode. But the number one question in ATL: who should be the starter in Week 16 against the New York Giants? Kirk Cousins or Michael Penix? If you are thinking of making a change, better do it now and do not wait until Week 17 on Sunday Night Football, because if you missed it, the Falcons got flexed into Sunday night against the Commanders in Week 17 and make Penix start his first game under the bright lights of NBC against Dan Quinn and that defense, and then have him turn around and play the Panthers for the final game of the season. Make the change now if you are on the fence. If you are on the fence, then the decision has been made for you, in my opinion. If you have to guess about it, then you know deep down what you want to do. Send the rookie in, please. Let me know what you guys think here. Well over 60 people watching right off the bat. I really appreciate everyone for hanging out with us. Hit that like button if you are just filing on in. But we're going to talk about everything you need to know following this Week 15 win. But first, a quick shout out to our friends over at Factor. Factor is a great sponsor of us here at Falcons Today, because between their breakfast to dinner and anything in between, Factor has easy, nutritious options to keep you fueled and feeling your best. Factor lets you do you. Choose from 6 menu preferences to help you manage calories, maximize protein intake, avoid meat, or simply eat well balanced. Head to factormeals.com/50FalconsChat and use code 50FalconsChat to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code 50FalconsChat at factormeals.com/50FalconsChat to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping while your subscription is active. I put all that information in the comments and description of today's video. Another sponsor of ours here at Chat Sports is PrizePicks. PrizePicks, by the way, calls Georgia home, so go support your neighbors over at PrizePicks because they support us here at Chat Sports. The way it works is you pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win, up to 1,000 times your cash during Pickmas. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks. PrizePicks puts their members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When my picks hit, I can get my money in as quick as 15 minutes. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. All of that information is in the comments and description of today's video. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. Run your game. I hope Jay is watching, because it is definitely time to talk about Raheem Morris and the job he has done with this team. When, sure, they come off a win and they're going to tell us all how difficult it is to win on the road in this league, and they're not necessarily wrong. But in the last 5 games, I've seen this team make a complete 180. And when you're the head coach, it starts and ends with you. So what is your confidence level in Raheem Morris? Scale it 1 to 10. 10 being, this is a coach who can win Atlanta a Super Bowl. 1 being, we need to fire him immediately. We are wasting time with every single game he coaches. For me, I'm probably at like a 4.8. Like, I'm closer to 1 than 10. I don't want to completely panic and throw the towel in, not even after season 1 is done. But I am moving closer and closer to 1 than I am 10 every single week that passes, that he continues to stand and stick by Kirk Cousins. Unless this is being forced upon him, what he is seeing out there to justify continuing to start Cousins is mind-blowing to me. It's like we're watching two different teams. I know that Raheem Morris is smarter than me when it comes to football. I won't argue that. But it does not take a rocket scientist to realize, hey, the guy that threw 8 interceptions and no touchdowns in a 4-game span probably shouldn't start anymore. That does not require a smartest man in the room mentality. That's just basic football intelligence. That's football for dummies right there. And what did Morris do? He went in front of the podium and kept saying, he's the reason why we're 6-3. He's the reason why we're 6-4. He's the reason why we're 6-5. He's the reason why we're 6-6. He's the reason why we're 6-7. And you kept on starting. I'm at a 4.8. Ricky's at a 1. Chuck is at a 3. Ricky's now at a 2. So somehow during that little spiel, he went up 1. Frisco Gaming is at a 1. Everyone's towards a 1. And everyone should be. Why would you not be closer to a 1 than 10? Archangel is in the chat. Appreciate you for watching again, Archangel. Annie's at a 2. Jace is at a 3. Cody's at a 5. Cody, whoever's at a 9 is Raheem Morris watching at work right now. That I'm watching Ted Lasso right now, and no spoilers, but Nate the Great, he eventually becomes obsessed with his own self-image, and he spends all of his time just looking on Twitter to see what people are saying about him. That's what Raheem Morris might be doing right now if he's in the chat giving himself a 9. In I Not William, 6. Don't Sleep on Me, 0. Christopher, 0. Yeah, 1, 2, and 0 are the most popular responses so far. Chuck, I agree. I don't know how you can justify Kirk starting. And Ted Lasso is a good show. No spoilers. Only at episode 2 of season 3. All right, before we get into the nuts and bolts of today's episode, shout out your city for me in the chat down below. It's always fun to see where everyone tunes in from. So don't be afraid. You don't have to give me your social. You don't have to give me your address. But just shout out your city. Let me know where you are watching from. I'll give some shout outs. If you'd like, you can dip your toe in the zip code game. And we'll see if I can guess the state you are from based on your zip code. It sounds maybe hard or maybe easy to you. It's definitely not as easy as you might think. So I've got Kelvin watching from South Carolina. Christopher is in D.C. 5 is in Richmond, Virginia. I've got Bakeski in Phoenix City. Chuck is in Scranton, PA. Paul's in Tampa. Ricky's in California. You can't put your city and then put your zip code afterwards because, Kelvin, I know you're in South Carolina. Quincy is in Ohio. Football Edits in New York. Is anyone going to give me a zip code? I've got Dumel in Pennsylvania. We did Dumel before. You've already done me. That's what she said. No zip codes. Dang. I do like the zip code game. It keeps things a little bit fresh. We got Pepistini Land. Cody, you gave me Noonan, Georgia, like 10 messages earlier. So let's get into what we have on the docket for today. Coming up on today's episode, we're going to talk all about the number one topic in Atlanta, and it's the reaction following the Week 15 win, if we can call it that even. The fact that Desmond Ridder had 2 cracks at a Hail Mary to tie and then possibly win the game takes all the fun out of it being a Victory Tuesday. Keenan, 1-9. Okay, Keenan. 1 is going to be Northeast. I know Massachusetts is 0. Reed is tipping his hand right now, so it's PA, I guess. Archangel, appreciate you watching. Black Marvel, y'all, it has to be Penix time, right? We're going to get into that because I do feel like Raheem Morris is starting to move a little bit closer to us. Then I want to look at the updated playoff picture and a mailbag. So make sure you get your questions in early and often. Use hashtag Falcons or Super Chat. If you'd like Super Chat, we'll throw it on screen for everyone watching to see. You can give me your question. You can give me your take. Whatever you're wondering, just use hashtag Falcons in the chat or Super Chat to skip the line, and we'll throw it on screen for all of our beautiful viewers to see. Sergio with a... Oh, 5. Okay. Let's dance, Sergio. I'm thinking, okay, I'm going off the states that I know. Like Texas is 7, Wyoming is 8. When I lived in Tennessee, my zip code was, I want to say 3. Or was it a 5? You think Florida's 3? You're going to go down 1, 2, 3. I'm going to say 5 is... Give me Kentucky. Final. Kentucky. I'm going to go with Kentucky. 134 people tuned in, only 30 likes. That means 90% of you have not liked the video. That's a very bad percentage, honestly. So I really appreciate it. If you don't mind hitting the thumbs up button. It's completely free, and it might not seem like a big deal to you, but it does go a long way to support the channel. So if you do like the free content we provide, I would greatly appreciate it if you could like the video. Sergio, I need the answer now. You can't leave me hanging like that. 50501. I went with Kentucky. Iowa. Damn.
Petey, do you know every state's
no, I just know like 6 states.
No, initials.
Yeah.
Yeah, like like
all 50 years postal code abbreviations. Yeah. IA. Oh, damn. Bobby, 2-3. I'm going to say, give me a Maryland. I'm going to go with Maryland for Bobby. All right, we got to get into the show, though. I wish I could have a channel that's just devoted to guessing zip codes. I feel like after a while, I have to, like, narrow it in from the state to, like, the city you're from. Virginia. That's off the back iron. I said Maryland. It's right there. All right, here we go. Week 16 starter. Are we ready to jump into the show? We're at 48 likes. We can get 2 more likes to get to 50. Hit that thumbs up button. Zach, 2-7. Didn't we just get a 2 from Bobby, and he was Virginia? I feel like I got to go Virginia. If I don't go Virginia, I'll regret it for the rest of my life. Give me Virginia. Final. All right. We're at 52 likes. Let's get into a live edition of Falcons Today. You guys get to see how the sausage is made before we put out a video. North Carolina. You got to be shitting me. Damn it. At some point, I'm just going to memorize where all you guys are from. And I'm going to sound super creepy when new people come to the channel. And I'm like, there's Zach from North Carolina. And like, this guy's a fucking pedo. Like, no, it's a zip code game. And I'm like, that's something a pedo would come up with. All right, here we go. Let's get into what the Falcons should do at quarterback. I want to get the pulse of everyone watching before we jump into the meat and potatoes of today's show. Who do you think should start Week 16? Kirk Cousins or Michael Penix? For me, the answer is clear. Michael Penix. But if you feel like the rookie is not ready and the Falcons' best chance of making the playoffs is sticking by the veteran, then type 18, I suppose. I'm trying to remember the last time a win did not feel like a win as much as this one did. The fact that Desmond Ridder had 2 cracks from 35 yards out to tie and possibly win the game tells you everything about the overall reaction to Atlanta's win on Monday Night Football against the Raiders. But let's talk about some of the news and rumors coming out of it, like the quarterback position. Because for the first time, we started to get Raheem Morris to come to our side of things when it comes to starting Michael Penix. After the game, Morris said on Kirk Cousins, he wants to play better. He has to play better. We have to play better at that quarterback position. How is the quarterback position a we thing? It's the only position that's manned by like one person, right? I guess the offensive line, but for the most part, like there's just one quarterback. It's not a we. I understand that he's trying to absorb all the blame and not single out a player, and that's a good, noble thing to do. But we have to play better. Just spit it out. It's Kirk has to play better. That's what he has to say. Now, Cousins also acknowledged that he needs to play better, which is not a new thing. Kirk has not been shying away from this, saying, I do think I need to play better. I don't think that's a mystery. So hopefully Raheem Morris will walk away from this win and go, we might need to really consider changing things up. The only explanation I can come up with as to why they haven't already is it is out of Raheem Morris's control. And if that's the case, then we have a puppet government going on with the Falcons where Arthur Blank in the front office, God forbid Rich McKay, is calling the shots at the quarterback position. And Morris is there to just be a baseball manager, and here's the lineup. You get to play these guys and go do the best with that. But overall, this team has no confidence in Kirk Cousins. And I'm not saying that from an opinion standpoint. I have actual numbers to back this up. On Monday night, the Falcons, on 1st and 10, called a run 23 times. They called a pass once. Just one time, they felt confident to let Kirk Cousins drop back on 1st and 10 and throw the football. Do you want to guess what happened on that one time? He threw an interception. So, yeah, I don't really knock Zach Robinson for not having a ton of confidence in Kirk Cousins. The lone opportunity he gets on 1st and 10 to pick up, some chunk of yardage, he throws it to the other team. So, what do the Falcons do? They take the ball out of Kirk Cousins' hands. And if you're curious how this relates to the entire season as a whole going into Monday night, weeks 1 through 14 on 1st down, they were calling pass 42% of the time. They have lost all faith in Kirk Cousins. They are trying to keep this thing afloat, and they will not acknowledge the biggest issue on the team, and that is the quarterback position. The Falcons are handicapping themselves. They are not allowing themselves to play to their full potential because they are remaining steadfast on playing 18 when he clearly is not helping the team win. He is holding them back. It's a tough thing to hear. It's a tough pill to swallow, but it is the truth, and the play calling speaks to that. They won't even let the guy they gave $100 million guaranteed to throw the football on 1st and 10. They called 17 pass plays for him. Think about it. There's Zach Robinson, headset on. He's up in the booth, and he's got two options. Run, pass. And he refuses to look at pass because he has a feeling, and it's a good feeling, that bad things are going to happen. We are one more Kirk Cousins interception away from basically running a triple option offense of just run, run, run. There's just no confidence in Kirk. And when the locker room knows that, because how couldn't they know that? Just look around. It's so obvious. It just deflates the entire roster. The offense goes on the field, and they feel like we've got one hand tied behind our back because they know we're going to run it because we have no faith in our quarterback to throw it. And that's just going to make Bijan's life more difficult as the game progresses. And by the second and third and fourth quarter, defense starts to notice, man, have you guys picked up that every time they're in pistol, they run the football? And they haven't passed on 1st and 10 once today? So let's just blitz. Let's just send everything we got at Robinson. And if they happen to beat us through the air, we'll live with it. What do you think is going to happen by the fourth quarter in a close game when you want to run the football and you can't because they're sending 7, 8, probably 9 guys at some point after the running back? There's no balance to this offense, and that is going to lead this team into the trenches. It's going to drive them straight into the ground. Please make a change. It is killing this team. Before we get on to the rest of today's episode, we are closing in on 31,000 subscribers. This December, we have picked up 499 subs. Last December, for reference, we had 729. So we're on a decent pace to beat what we did all of last year in the month of December. So let's make this the best December to remember and click that subscribe button down below. If you're curious where things stand going into Week 16, the Falcons at 7-7 have some work to do. If you're just kind of starting to wake up to the playoff picture, they are one game behind the Buccaneers. We're going to do a full playoff breakdown on our next episode and talk about maybe a wild card path for Atlanta if they can't catch up to the Bucs. But it's pretty simple. The Falcons have to finish in the last 3 games with a better record than Tampa does. If they match, it goes to the Bucs because they have a 1-game lead right now. If both teams finish with the same record, it goes to Atlanta because they have the head-to-head tiebreaker. So you look at the Falcons' remaining schedule and the Buccaneers' remaining schedule. Tampa must lose one of these games for Atlanta to have any chance. Now, if the Falcons go 3-0 and finish 9-8, or that'd be 10-7, sorry, and the Buccaneers also go 3-0 and finish, what would that be, 11-6, there could be a playoff spot for Atlanta in the wild card race, which is what I want to discuss on our next episode. But for today's purpose, I just wanted to go over the very brief and simplistic view of what does Atlanta need to do to make the playoffs? They need the Bucs to lose at least one game, and they have to be perfect. And they looked far from perfect against the Raiders. Quick shout out to our friends over at Factor. Notice how the days are shorter, but your to-do lists aren't? Power through your busy days with Factor's no prep, no mess meals. From breakfast to dinner and anything in between, Factor has easy, nutritious options to keep you fueled and feeling your best. Whether you like routine or you enjoy mixing things up, Factor has you covered with 35 delicious different meals every single week and over 60 additional convenience options you can add to your next box. Because Factor meals are chef-prepared and dietitian approved, you are going to love not only how they taste, but also how they support your goals. Head to factormeals.com/50FalconsChat and use code 50FalconsChat to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code 50FalconsChat at factormeals.com/50FalconsChat to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping while your subscription is active. I put all that information for you guys in the comments and description of today's video. So I do want to talk about some of the bright spots that came out of the win because I feel like there was some good things to write home about, and that's special teams. I mean, aside from Younghoe Koo's missed field goal, which we will talk about, Kadarius Hodge was freaking awesome. He is a Pro Bowl special teamer. He blocked 2 punts. He has made a lot of key plays for them. Remember, he had the touchdown for the Falcons in the Saints game at home. Remember, that was the game where Atlanta did not score a single offensive touchdown and still won the game because of field goals and Kadarius Hodge. So he has been so fun to watch this year on special teams. And a third of the football doesn't get a ton of attention, ton of credit, but when they make a bad play, it's on full display. But when they make a good play, we got to give them just as much credit as we do for an offensive play or a defensive play. Unfortunately, Younghoe Koo happened again. He missed like a 42-yarder. So here are his numbers. He is 73% of the season, 30-39, 5 for 7. He's missed twice. 40-49, he is now 7 of 11 and 6 of 9 beyond 50. I know he had some big kicks earlier, but the misses at this point have stacked up too much to let that balance things out. So I was thinking about this last night before I went to bed after the win. Who is more likely, in your opinion, to make a season-ending mistake for the Falcons? Is it Younghoe Koo missing what could be a playoff-sealing 45-yard kick? Or is it Kirk Cousins with the ball in the last 2 minutes and a chance to win the game and he throws an interception? I know this is kind of a dark, morbid question, but they're 7-7. And honestly, all I can think of is one of these two things is bound to happen. And I'm leaning towards the first. Like, Kirk is somehow going to not figure it out, but the defense and Bijan will push them through the first or next 2 games. And then Koo, to beat the Panthers to go to the playoffs, is going to miss a 45-yarder. That's my nightmare right now. Second bright spot I want to talk about is the defense. I did not think we would be talking about the defense as a bright spot, especially in the pass rush department after the first 11 weeks of the season when they had 10 sacks. And over the last 3 games, they have put together 13 sacks. They have 3 more sacks in the last 3 games compared to the first 10 games of the season. It has been a dramatic turnaround, and it hasn't been a result of Matthew Judon or some of your more notable names coming to play. I got D'Angelo Malone coming up with 2 sacks, a primary special teamer making plays. You've got Kentavious Street making big plays. It is not the usual suspects, if there were any usual suspects, from the first 10 games of the year. However, what's mind-blowing to me is despite having 13 sacks in 3 games, they're still dead last in sacks. It's almost impressive. I don't know how I can look this stat up, but I'm going to try and figure out a way to look up if a team has ever had a 3-game stretch with 13 sacks and finished in the season just bottom 5 in sacks. But Atlanta's pass rush is still overall in the season lagging behind, but the last couple of weeks has been much, much better. They are 27th in pressures and pressure percentage, and they are 32nd in sacks. So it's time to give credit where credit is due. Jimmy Lake and this defense, sure, they play Desmond Ridder in a Raiders offense that has virtually no weapons outside of Brock Bowers and an offensive line that's in need of major repair, but they came to play. They can only play the team in front of them, and they did their absolute best and did a great job, I would say, against the Raiders for about 57 minutes up until the last 2 Las Vegas drives. So credit to Jimmy Lake and this defense. Really good performance on Monday night. Third bright spot I just want everyone to start picking up on is Bijan Robinson, I think, could be the number 1 running back in the NFL in 2025. He has crossed 1,000 yards on the season. He has 9 total touchdowns, nearly 500 receiving yards. He'll likely pass what he did in his rookie season in that department. He has the second most amount of games of 100-plus yards from scrimmage this year, and I think over the last 2 seasons combined as well, but don't quote me on that part. Bijan has been fantastic. Sure, he's getting plenty of touches, so there's more opportunities for yards, but still, Bijan Robinson has been the workhorse for this team. In fact, the last 3 games, he's had at least 22 carries, which if you're wondering how common that is, not all that common. It's the first time since Josh Jacobs in 2022 where a running back in a 3-game span had 22 or more carries. It's only happened 4 times since 2020. Derrick Henry, who did it plenty of times in 2021, Jonathan Taylor, Josh Jacobs, and now Bijan Robinson. And I think next year it'll be Robinson and Barkley as the NFL's RBs 1 and 2, and don't sleep on the young'un who is rising the ranks. So let's show the guy some love because he has been essentially the only consistent thing on offense amid this 5-game drought, we'll call it. We can include the Raiders' win in this stretch right here. Darnell Mooney's been injured. He does not look 100%. Unfortunately, with how bad Kirk Cousins is, that's severely impacting Drake London. But Bijan has been the lone consistent thing throughout it all. So, Bijan, thank you. Before we sign off, I just want to show some love to the Dirty Birds Club. Thank you guys so much for tuning in throughout this entire season, even though it's had a lot of ups and downs. It's always good to see the same names and faces in the chat. Look forward to seeing you guys at the remaining watch parties of the season. Make sure to subscribe to the channel so you do not miss those watch parties, and I'll see you all next time. Peter's typing 7, Brandon, Archangel. Yeah, thank you, Bijan. That's all I can say right now. I mean, if the Falcons did not have Robinson, sure, that 8th overall pick, yeah, 8th. Yeah, 8th. I'm second guessing myself. Could have been used elsewhere, but it would be way worse right now, that's for sure.
It was funny. In the beginning of the season, we were like, why aren't we using Bijan Robinson? Because Tyler Algier was going crazy.
Remember?
And then it switched up.
Yeah, but there was that stretch where there were people like, low key, I think Algier might be better than Bijan. Look at the season now. Take the Raiders game. Bijan needed a break, from time to time, but you can notice the difference when Algier was rushing versus Bijan. And it's not a big knock on Algier because he's still a talented running back, but give me Bijan over Algier every single day of the week, and that really shouldn't be a hot take. Saint typing 7. Keenan, we got a game flex to Sunday night. I know. NFL, bunch of madmans over there putting the 7-7 Falcons on Sunday Night Football. But we do get the national attention, so like it or hate it, that's coming. Next up on the show, I want to talk about the I want to talk about the playoff picture for the Falcons and the way they can maybe find a path to the wild card spot. So we're going to talk about all that good stuff in just a moment. 152 people tuned in. Thank you guys so much for watching with us. Make sure to like the video if you have not already. Trying to get up to 100 likes. We're at 76. We also have a mailbag coming up after this updated playoff picture. So use hashtag Falcons or Super Chat. If you Super Chat, we guarantee it goes on screen for everyone watching to see. So if you want to send in the first Super Chat of the day, greatly appreciate it, but no pressure whatsoever. Thank you to everyone for watching. So let's get into segment number 2. Yeah, Archangel, Week 17, Falcons at Commanders, flex to Sunday Night Football. It was supposed to be Browns hosting the Dolphins, so we can all see why they took that game out of Sunday night. I thought that Falcons-Commanders game would get flexed to Saturday instead of that Week 17, which the next couple of weeks are really murky for the NFL schedule. We got some games on Saturday this week, then games on Sunday, then games on Christmas Wednesday, then Thursday football, then the next Saturday, then Sunday, and then a whole week until Week 18 Sunday. So there are games on almost every day and Monday Night Football, except for Tuesday, pretty much over the next week and a half or so. So, and Friday. Let's get into it. Let's talk about, okay, I'll be at that game. I've actually been visualizing that game at night. Well, Archangel, enjoy the game. And make sure you send us a picture. Let's talk about the updated playoff picture. It is time for everyone's least favorite segment, but I feel obligated to do it. Playoff picture time. Where the Falcons stand, their path to the postseason via the NFC South Division title, and even, believe it or not, the wild card. So here is the updated playoff picture for the NFC coming out of Week 15. Falcons are tied with the Cardinals at 7-7, which might prove to be a little bit of a haymaker if it comes down to the wild card for Atlanta. Now, at this current moment, the Falcons have a 24% chance of making the playoffs, according to the New York Times playoff machine. It's very straightforward for Atlanta for one of their two routes. The division route is very simple. It is over the next 3 games, you have to finish with a better record than the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Tie, and it's going to go to the Bucs. You are 1 game behind, so you have to go most likely 3-0 in this stretch. You could go 2-1, but then you need the Buccaneers to go 1-2. So the Bucs have the Cowboys on Sunday Night Football in Dallas. They just beat the Chargers on the road. They've won 4 in a row. I don't think this is going to be a gimme. Sure, Tampa's the better team. It's who I would pick to win, but the Cowboys are a well-coached team. They're not going to be a team that just completely rolls over. They just knocked off the Panthers in, a bit of a dramatic fashion. And then they have the Panthers and Saints in Tampa to close out the season. So the Buccaneers have, I wouldn't say 3 absolute cakewalk games, but they're going to be favored in all 3 games. They don't have the Chiefs. They don't have the Eagles. No, they don't have any of those tough games remaining on their schedule. So the simplest way for the Falcons to make the playoffs is finish with a better record in the next 3 weeks than the Buccaneers. Finish with the same record or worse, and Tampa wins the NFC South. And Atlanta, if you don't know, has the tiebreaker head-to-head with Tampa. So if the Falcons go 3-0 over the next 3 weeks and Tampa goes 2-1 and both teams finish 10-7, it's Atlanta that hosts a playoff game instead of Tampa. Overall, I have little faith in this team going 3-0. I know that their upcoming 3 games are manageable, right? Giants, bad. Commanders, not bad and on the road, but that's just one tough game. And then Panthers, bad. But what have we seen from this team over the last 5 weeks that gives us any confidence that they can be perfect for 3 straight games? They barely got by the Raiders. They let Desmond Ridder come within 35 yards of winning the game. So it's not what you want to hear, but it's the cold hard truth. I do not have much faith in Atlanta going 3-0. But maybe they can go 2-1 and the Buccaneers somehow go 1-2. That might be the easiest, or maybe not easiest, the most realistic path for the Falcons. It's not a Atlanta surge, it's a Tampa meltdown. And that does not seem likely with them riding a 4-game winning streak. So what do you think Atlanta will do in the last 3 games? They go back home and play the Giants. Then they go to Washington and play the Commanders. And then they come home and play the Panthers. I'll say 2-1. Lose to the Commanders on Sunday Night Football. Beat the Giants. Actually, I'll say 1-2 now I think about it. If they lose to the Commanders, Week 18 is going to be such a deflating game. And maybe the Panthers come in and just put the last stab in the Falcons' corpse and it's all over. Now, if you're wondering about the wild card, for all you sickos out there that think there's a chance that the Falcons could maybe sneak into the wild card, which it's actually not that wildly unrealistic, that's what we'll go over next on the show in terms of what Atlanta can do to maybe make the playoffs if they can't surpass the Buccaneers. But I do got to give a quick shout out to our friends over at PrizePicks. PrizePicks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, PrizePicks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to, get this, 1,000 times your cash during Pickmas. Run your game all season long on PrizePicks. Let me give you an example of what selections look like and what I'm doing for Thursday. I've got the more on Bo Nix and Cortland Sutton, along with Justin Herbert passing yards, while taking the less on Cameron Dicker, on Cameron Dicker for 1.5 field goals. So PrizePicks also offers Venmo and MasterCard for quick and easy deposits and withdrawals into your account this season. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. All of that information is in the comments and description of today's video. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. So wildcard time. Here's what I can tell you. The odds, the probability, the chances from the playoff calculators. In Week 16, if the Falcons beat the Giants at home and the Buccaneers beat the Cowboys in Dallas on Sunday Night Football and the Commanders lose to the Eagles, which are all things that are favored to happen, the Falcons' wild card chances are 12%. Now, if we take all these events, which are all favored to happen, and then roll it over to Week 17, Atlanta beats the Commanders on Sunday Night Football, they will have a 60% chance of making the wild card. It's not that complex, but where it does get complex is the other teams that want a wild card spot. But just look at the next 2 weeks. You're Atlanta, and you're focusing on yourself. Beat the Giants at home. Commanders lose to the hottest team in the NFL right now, the Philadelphia Eagles, in Philly. And then you go into Week 17 and you somewhat control your destiny because going into this game, you'd be 1 game behind the Commanders. And if you win, you'd be tied with them at 9-7, and you would have the head-to-head tiebreaker. So a big week, of course. Every single game's big at this point. That's just, redundant. But it's not too far out of Atlanta's reach to maybe get the wild card spot if they can't catch up to Tampa. Here's where it gets hairy. The NFC West exists. And the Rams and the Seahawks and the Cardinals, who have the same record as Atlanta, are all jockeying for basically what the Falcons are doing with the Buccaneers, trying to win the division, and the consolation prize might be the 7th seed in the wild card picture because the Vikings and the Packers are essentially locked up for seeds 5 and 6. So it's in Atlanta's best interest, I would say, for the Rams to start pulling away with the NFC West because we don't need both these teams being competitive for a wild card or a playoff spot all the way to Week 18. So you're probably rooting for the Rams to take care of business against the Jets and beat the Cardinals to kind of knock Arizona out of the wild card mix, and then beat the Seattle Seahawks in Week 18. And meanwhile, for Seattle, get them out of the way for the Falcons to get a wild card spot by losing to a very good Vikings team, falling on the road to the Bears on Thursday Night Football for Week 17, one of those two games losing, and then lose to the Rams on the road in Week 18. That way, LA just gets the third seed in the playoff picture. They're out of sight, out of mind, and the Falcons aren't competing with the Seahawks for a wild card spot because they do not have the head-to-head tiebreaker with Seattle. So what we don't want to see happen is the Rams and the Seahawks both keep winning, and one gets the division spot and the other one gets the 7 seed. No. Have one ascend, have one descend, and then just have the Falcons-Commanders game in Week 17 more or less be for the 7 seed in the wild card picture. So here are teams to root against if all that was too confusing. Root like hell against the Buccaneers. Root for the Commanders to lose against the Eagles so that Atlanta can go into Week 17 with a little bit of control your own destiny feel to it, and then get Seattle out of the way of the playoff picture and out of the wild card race because they have the head-to-head over the Falcons. Now, if you want a Falcons playoff game, hit that like button. Let's make this one of the most liked videos in the month of December. I know right now no one's very happy with this team and we're all kind of over their shit, but when the playoffs get here, you and I both know if Atlanta's in there, we're going to talk ourselves into it. It's going to be bad. It's going to be disgusting, honestly. But if that Sunday rolls around, I will forget everything they did over this 5-week stretch, and I will be all in. So if you're in the same mindset as me, hit that like button. I do want to give some love to the Dirty Birds Club before we get on out of here. Jose Santana, Ken Ballard, Trey, good to see you, Trey, on Monday night. Jason Lindino, Reese Atkins, Archangel, always watching with us. Angry Liquid, haven't seen Angry Liquid in a while. Jeebus was there on Monday night. Dictator JC, JT, Jordan C. Johnza, Ronan also watching on Monday night. Lord Buddy Bear, Bentley was there right at the start of our watch party. So thank you guys so much for tuning in every single game day that we go live for. Make sure to like the video if you enjoyed our content today. $140 people tuned in. We're 17 likes away from 100. So if you're just filing on in, hit that thumbs up button. Ryan, he is contradicting himself, saying that if the Falcons and Bucs finish the same record, Bucs win the NFC South. Then he turns around and says if they tie, Falcons own the tiebreaker. Ryan, maybe you didn't hear me or I wasn't clear enough. If they finish with the same record over the last 3 games of the year, it goes Tampa. If they both go 3-0, if they both go 2-1, if they finish with the same overall record, then it goes Atlanta's way. The Falcons have to make up ground in the last 3 games. They don't control their own destiny. It's not win out and they win the NFC South. They have to do better than the Buccaneers in just the last 3 games of the season. But if they finish with the same identical record for the entire year, 10-7, 9-8, then tiebreaker goes to Atlanta. Tie man the Buckeye. Put down old Yeller Kirk. Oh. So, are we ready to get into our mailbag? Use hashtag Falcons if you have a question or super chat if you want to guarantee your question or your take gets on screen. So, looking for a few more questions. After Ryan tried to embarrass me, I think it's only fair that Ryan gets a question in. So, we're just going to sit here patiently until Ryan gets a... Trucker Mike is here. Let's go. And he gets a question in. I knew I loved you, Trucker Mike. And we can guess where is Trucker Mike. Everyone guess where our resident trucker is. What state is Trucker Mike driving through? Get your predictions in the chat right now. Pick a state that Trucker Mike is in. Yesterday it was... What? Wasn't yesterday like South Carolina? It was South Carolina. He was in Clinton, South Carolina. Dylan, will Bucks lose? I mean, that's a question, Dylan. You can definitely get that one in there. What state do you think Trucker Mike is in, Reed? He was in South Carolina yesterday.
I'm going to go with Alabama.
How far could he have gone?
I'm going with Alabama.
Okay. I'm going to say I think Florida. I think Florida.
Okay.
Me and Dylan are both thinking Florida. I don't know if he stopped in South Carolina last night, but I like Florida. Archangel and Emmanuel, thank you so much for getting your questions in. What happened to Ryan? I mean, I get things wrong. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to come across as someone who bats 1,000, but like, as a human race, there's nothing more frustrating than when you are right and someone's telling you are wrong, and it's like, no, this isn't an opinion thing. These are just facts.
I think the way that this whole playoff thing is explained too, like the way you're like, it's so hard to just like be like, oh yeah, I understand.
The issue with the playoff picture concept is it's so it's not just confusing. There's so many layers to it, even when you're 3 weeks out. Like, it's really only digestible when there's 2 weeks remaining. And we need this to happen this week. And if this happens this week, then next week we need this. When you're 3 weeks out, that's 2 ifs, and then for week 18. Rusty Moore is in the chat. Awesome to see you, Rusty. Trucker Mike, are we ready for final guesses? I'm sticking with Florida. Alabama? Good guesses. Trucker Mike? Where is Trucker Mike? The wait is on. Don't say that. Got tickets to the Commanders Week 17 game. Dylan, did you use Game Time? If you didn't, I'm going to ban you from the channel. Trucker Mike. We are all anxiously waiting. Dylan, what the? That one hurts. Dylan, not a Falcons Today guy. Come on. Trucker Mike, give us something.
Come on, Trucker Mike.
We can't wait forever, Trucker Mike. Don't do this to us.
We got to do we got enough questions now.
So. Yeah. Interstate 40. It could be in Tennessee.
I love how he's teasing us.
Could be in Arkansas. Could be in Oklahoma. No, Missouri. I think he's in Tennessee based on South Carolina last night. I said Florida, so I'm out of the mix here. But my second guess would be, 40 does not go through Alabama. I think 10 goes through Alabama. Rusty got it in North Carolina. No, he said Rusty, and Rusty said NC. Oh, he also said Kentucky. No, but it's a second guess. 40 does not go through Kentucky. I don't think it goes through Kentucky. I'm 90% sure it doesn't. I think it's North Carolina. Rusty. I think Rusty is in the truck with Trucker Mike. I think these two might be working in a tandem. They're running some kind of scheme. I can't figure out how they make money off of it, but they're definitely cheating the system here. Corey, do you think drafting Michael Penix making sense right now? Corey, use hashtag Falcons, and that way producer Reed can pull the question from the chat and put it on screen. You have to use hashtag Falcons. Otherwise, the software can't find your comment and then pull it and put it on our computer. Rusty, congratulations, though. That's very impressive. I think Rusty might have a big just map of the U.S. And it's just got like Trucker Mike locations by the day. And he's just noticing the pattern of his driving. We're 2 likes away from 100. Let's get there before we get this mailbag off the ground. New to the channel. Welcome, RJ. Happy to have you. Let's get RJ's question in there for sure. Let's get this show on the road. We're at 99 likes. Can one more person like the video? I know I'm being needy right now, but 99 likes. Let's just get to 100. Dylan, yeah. So, there we go. We're at 100. And we got plenty of questions in here. All right, here we go. Live. Welcome on into Falcons Today. I'm answering questions from our mailbag during our live show, which this week aired on Tuesday afternoon. Quick reminder, though, go ahead and share the video with a friend that's a fan of the Falcons. We're trying to grow this channel as much as possible, so if you don't mind, click the share button, put it on social media, or text it to a friend, a family member, and get them to subscribe to the channel as well. First question coming in from Zach. After that, I don't want to see Kirk Cousins with his jersey on, referring to the Falcons win, we'll call it, over the Raiders. I'm with you, Zach. I cannot come up with an explanation as to how Kirk Cousins completely fell off a cliff. I don't know if he re-aggravated his Achilles injury or what, but we are watching a Jekyll and Hyde from weeks 2 through 9 of the season. And it kind of started to go downhill a little bit in that Seahawks game and then the Cowboys game, where there's still a win, to the last 5 weeks of the season. So, Zach, I wish I had a better explanation as to the why behind Kirk fell off the face of the earth, but the reality is he did fall off, and the sooner everyone in Flowery Branch accepts that, the better. Reggie, why are we forgetting that we were in the same position in the first year Dan Quinn was head coach? I don't know if that's the same position, right? Dan Quinn's first year did not involve signing a 36-year-old quarterback to a $100 million guaranteed contract and drafting a quarterback top 10. Same position for the wins and losses and the record and the way things went. Yeah, but I do feel like the moves that were made in the offseason are going to have a big factor when we weigh in the success of the team in the regular season. If the team's going to spend and invest this much in the quarterback position and the quarterback position is failing them, they have a little bit extra reason to be upset. I don't think that was present for DQ's first year. Reggie, I do appreciate your question, though. Emmanuel, if Penix isn't named the starter by Thursday, the season is over. I can't keep making excuses for them. If there's a time to name the starter, it's the morning after the game. Every hour that goes by from that moment forward is just a waste of time. If you come back on Thursday to name him the starter, you just wasted Tuesday, Wednesday as days to prepare Penix for the upcoming Giants game. So I don't want them to name Penix the starter anymore. The window closed for Week 16 already. That ship has sailed. Roll forward with Cousins for this week, because what I don't want to see happen is, all right, you guys want me to start Penix? Fine, here you go. Michael, you're starting with 3 hours heads up. Well, now you're setting him up to fail just to prove just so we get our way. That's not fun for anyone. So it's Cousins for this upcoming Sunday against the G-Men, but it should be Penix, but the window is closed to make a change. Trucker Mike, our favorite trucker. What position would Atlanta draft with their first pick in 2025? Defensive end, edge rusher. I mean, a couple of guys that just come to mind that are going to be available around where Atlanta picks, because at 7-7 right now, I doubt they go 0-3 the rest of the way. So at worst 8-9, they're probably picking somewhere between 12 to 15. There are a lot of 3 and 4 win teams this year, so I don't think they're going to be in range of Abdul Carter from Penn State. He's my number one edge rusher. James Pierce is another guy to keep an eye on out of Tennessee. I think this is what's going to be the Falcons' front five in 2025. Arnold Ebiketie, Onyemata, Grady Jarrett, 3 guys under contract. You sign a free agent at defensive end and use your first-round pick on an outside linebacker. If you want to swap the free agent and outside linebacker or the first-round pick positions, fine by me. So James Pierce out of Tennessee, someone to keep an eye on. Scorton from Texas A&M, another guy to keep an eye on as well. Those are 2 SEC defenders that come to mind of edge rushers that are expected to go around where Atlanta is expected to pick. Trucker Mike, thank you for the question. Dylan, when will Troy Anderson be back? Unfortunately, Anderson's knee has just not really ever gotten better since that Saints win back in week 5? I think it was week 5. He was placed on injured reserve before the Raiders game, so he's out a minimum of 4 weeks, which means week 15, this past Monday, 16, 17, 18. He is out for the remainder of the regular season. If they make the playoffs, he could come back because the weeks continue into the postseason like they do for the regular season. But we will not see Troy Anderson for the rest of the regular season. And also Nate Landman got injured in the Raiders game. So both your two starting inside linebackers along with Caden Ellis have been banged up all year long. Quincy McBride. Am I the only one that kind of wish Atlanta kept Jonnu Smith and got rid of Pitts? You know, it's not a bad take, Quincy. Like last year, Jonnu Smith was in some ways better than Kyle Pitts, and the Falcons said no. One guy was taken 4th overall. One guy's an old vet. We're going to stick with the 4th overall pick. And I mean, every GM would have done the same decision, so I'm not going to knock Atlanta for that. But Jonnu Smith, I see, is having a nice year with the Miami Dolphins, catching touchdown passes. I think if you just did blind resume and removed age, which has some value, and draft selection, it would have been Jonnu Smith. You're absolutely right, Quincy. Before we get on to the rest of today's mailbag, thanks to our friends over at Factor. They've got an awesome deal for the Dirty Birds. Power through your busy days with Factor's no prep, no mess meals. From breakfast to dinner and anything in between, Factor has easy, nutritious options to keep you fueled and feeling your best. Find guilt-free comfort foods like home-style chicken and gravy, loaded mashed potato pork chops, feel-good vegan options like sweet potato and chickpea curry, and globally inspired flavors like Peruvian shrimp and red pepper grits. There's no sacrificing quality for convenience with Factor. Weekly menus offer ways to treat yourself to restaurant-quality meals experience with Gourmet Plus dishes that feature premium proteins and seasonal sides like broccolini, asparagus, truffle butter filet mignon, mouth-watering stuff. Head to factormeals.com slash 50 Falcons Chat and use code 50 Falcons Chat to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping. That's code 50 Falcons Chat at factormeals.com slash 50 Falcons Chat to get 50% off your first box plus free shipping while your subscription is active. I put all that information for you guys in the comments and description of today's video. Next question coming up. Corey Thomas, do you think drafting Michael Penix makes more sense now? No, because you use the word sense. Sense, I think, implies that the logic given why they used Michael Penix with the 8th overall pick does not check out here. The whole plan when they drafted Penix was we're following the Packers model. The Packers model did not have, and that's not me saying it, that's their verbatim words, is the Packers model. The Packers model did not have the current starter falling off a cliff the year that rookie was taken. The Packers model was the rookie sits for a while so that you never enter quarterback purgatory and you spend 2 to 3 seasons searching for your next franchise QB. That was not the plan for Atlanta, right? They didn't draft Michael Penix because they thought Kirk Cousins might be bad this year. Otherwise, they would not have signed Kirk Cousins. So, no, I don't think it makes more sense. Is it more convenient? Absolutely. Okay, you kind of got yourself a little bit of a lifeline. You have yourself like an immunity idol. You can avoid elimination by playing your 8th overall pick, Michael Penix, even though you signed a quarterback in free agency, but you double dipped and the first one didn't work, so you kind of hedged your bets, but that really wasn't the plan to hedge your bets. You didn't draft Penix just in case Kirk Cousins was bad this year. You drafted Penix because you wanted someone to take over from Kirk Cousins in 2 to 3 years. That plan has changed, because Cousins will not be here for 2 to 3 years with the way he has played the last 5 weeks. RJC, new member to the channel, can we finally call the Kyle Pitts pick a bust? Terry needs to be looked at. His job should be on the line. I would agree, especially with the word bust being applied to the 4th overall pick. If Kyle Pitts was the 27th overall pick, it would not be this big of a conversation. But the fact is he was the 4th. And when you're picking top 5, you are expected to deliver a blue chip player, someone who is a consistent, perennial Pro Bowler for 8 to 10 years, which is a high expectation, but that's the kind of guys you're supposed to find with a top 5 pick at a cornerstone position. Instead, they got a tight end who might never make a Pro Bowl again after being a Pro Bowler his rookie season. So I would agree, RJ, it has been an absolute bust of a pick given the 4th overall selection being used on him. Archangel, any news on DeMarco Hellams? I honestly think he would make a little impact on our defense for the good. No update. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head if they opened up his 21-day practice window. Someone can fact check me. If they did open up his 21-day practice window, after 21 days, they have to decide whether to place him on the active 53-man roster or place him on injured reserve for the rest of the season. Sometimes when players that are kind of like, I wouldn't say fringe players, because Helms wasn't a fringe player, but, not clear-cut, no-doubt starters, get injured in the preseason, teams will pretend like they're still injured for the entire regular season if there's not a roster spot available for them. So they're not just going to open up the practice window if they don't have a clear roster spot for him to take, because they might not want to move on from a guy who is healthy. So they might be doing some roster juggling like that. Frisco Gaming, who is one of the biggest missed draft picks in the last 3 years for the Falcons? Good question, Frisco. Let's just kind of pull up. I'm not going to use 2024 draft class. I don't think it's fair to use this past draft class because we just can't, make a fair determination on them just yet. So going from 2023 down to 2021, Kyle Pitts at number 4 is definitely a great candidate. I mean, go back to 2023, Bijan, Bergeron, first round and second round picks. Zach Harrison, round 3. People miss on round 3s all the time. It's not too uncommon. Arnold Ebiketie being the 38th overall pick, top 40, early second rounder. Hasn't really lived up to second round, 38th overall pick expectations. D'Angelo Malone, he just came alive for the first time. He had 2 sacks on Monday against the Raiders. He had one, Houdini, throughout the first 44 games of his career. Richie Grant, that was a miss. Jalen Mayfield, that was a miss. I got to say, it's the easy answer is Kyle Pitts, but the sneaky good answers are Jalen Mayfield. I mean, he never produced squat for this team. And probably Ritter and Malone, third-round picks that contributed very little for this team. Rusty Moore, Raheem is a mid-coach and Kirk is a washed. Raheem is a mid-coach and Kirk is a washed QB. 7-7 seems about right to me. When you frame it that way, yes. I mean, but here's the thing. Neither one of those things looked good or sounded true back in early October. Rusty, if you had the balls to super chat or send in a question in October that Raheem is mid and Kirk is washed, people would have laughed you out the room. I would have. They were 6-3. But unfortunately, they have just completely melted. And maybe that's because they were phonies the whole time. But they definitely had a long run of looking good. Like, people are phonies all the time early on in the NFL. The Saints were phonies. They were 2-0. Remember that? But that was just 2-0. Hard to be a phony at 6-3. I am the king of the fraud watch, but they did not give me fraud vibes because no one had serious expectations for them, and they still looked flawed, and that was reflected in a 6-3 record. Last question coming in from S. Coleman. Do you think we can pull it off with the win-out scenario? No. The way they played against the Raiders, they played down to a 2-win team's level. I would not be surprised if the Panthers beat them in week 18. I could argue the Panthers have looked better the last month than the Falcons have. So do I think they're going to run the table and finish 3-0? They'll probably beat the Giants the same way they beat the Raiders with defense and special teams. And if they are lucky enough to knock off the Commies on Sunday Night Football, it'll be the most Falcons thing ever to lose at home with the playoffs right in front of them against the Panthers. They're going to lose one of these 2 games. I don't know which one, but they're going to lose one of those 2. That's going to do it for us on today's episode. Thank you guys so much for tuning into our mailbag. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. That way you can be a part of future mailbags. You guys think they're going to go 3-0? I know everyone just wants to say yes. But do you actually believe it? Troy being a bust of a pick, I didn't say Troy because we've seen good football from him when healthy. But the best ability is availability. And right now that's missing at the moment. Ty, man, I saw that one. Thank you very much. All right. That will do it for us on our live show today. I really appreciate everyone for tuning in. I know it's a little bit of a different schedule, but with them playing on Monday night, it seemed more appropriate to go live on Tuesday. So thank you all so much for tuning in and watching with us. Enjoy the rest of your week, and I'll see you guys later.